Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome back to Discover Neo4j AuraDB. This is
Season 2.
season 2. Yes, keeping in line with going Meta, who also has a season 2 now after a long break of no episodes on Discover AuraDB. We are bringing the series back. We're changing the format a little bit. We want to shorten it. We see that try to aim for under 30 minutes to give you
let's see.
impression. Yeah, let's see. Well, it's the first episode, so give us some slack. But the aim is really to get you familiar with a couple of new things that have been added to AuraDB as a platform, how the intro is working now, what features have been added, how it works for you as a user, how to get data going, import it into graphdatabase, and then get started in AuraDB in ideally 30 minutes, but maybe will take a little bit longer this time. But generally, the goal is really to help you understand what you can do and what you can achieve with AuraDB. And if you haven't used AuraDB in a while, then this is a great refresh and a great intro. If you are a AuraDB power user, I still think this could be interesting for you to see, okay, how do we work? What are some tips and tricks? Maybe some things.
Also, what's new? There's a lot of new stuff, even, right? So that people haven't seen yet, as such.
Exactly. And if you have questions, if you are on Aura, and if you have questions, then obviously write us in chat. Let us know in the comments if this is relevant or if this is interesting. What you'd like to see on the series. Always great to see and hear your feedback. And if you like the episode, then give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Obviously, that would be very good from an audience perspective. So, but other than that, really keep it interactive. I see a couple of people already in chat, so thank you for joining today. And I'm looking forward to this episode. And yeah, I don't know, Michael, do we need to intro you, or does everybody know who you are?
Good question. Yeah. So actually, I changed roles recently, or not so recently, but a while ago. And so my name is Michael. This year is my 15th year at Neo4j. So I started in 2010, so ages ago. And have been, of course, been part of the Neo4j community for a long time. Ran DevRel, built up the community, developer community, ran Neo4j Labs and lots of other things. So from that perspective, there's a lot of interesting projects, everything from APOC to graph data science to many other things as well. And about 2 years ago, a little bit less than 2 years ago, I moved from developer relations to product. So now I'm heading product innovation at Neo4j. So kind of all the bleeding new developments that are on the horizon today. That's, of course, a lot of GenAI, but also cloud integrations, cloud native database, and so on. So there's a lot of interesting topics happening there. And we recently did a live stream on something else, I think, and I felt actually some longing to come back with Alex to live stream because I really enjoyed it. And so we have always a lot of fun, and it's a good place to be. And so I always love to show and teach people things and love to answer questions. So from that perspective, we want to try this again. Probably a little bit less stressful this time. So we won't do weekly sessions, but monthly sessions. But depending on interest and questions, we might put one extra session here and there in, depending on how it goes as such. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why it's particularly interesting to hear your feedback on this new season, or what you'd like to see, what yours, maybe if you have any questions, like I said earlier, or if you have something you don't understand, or if something you'd like us to showcase and explain to you, or how you do things. And then, as Michael said, we have so many new things added to the product that you might not even be aware of, that people have maybe not seen. And I think that's why another reason for this series to come back is great to showcase that and to give you an opportunity to explore the things and to maybe be inspired and then try it out yourself.
Exactly. That's the idea. And so I think without further ado, we can get started, or from that perspective.
Yeah, let's get started. And everything starts obviously with a link to AuraDB, which I'll also post in the channel, in the chat right now. I have it already open.
Exactly. So I already opened the AuraDB webpage. You can also just Google it, Neo4j AuraDB, of course, which is the managed graph offering for Neo4j. So if you've run Neo4j yourself in the past, or Neo4j desktop, or with Docker or something like that, and at some point you want to launch your application or share your data with colleagues or friends or so, then of course the cloud managed service is quite nice. And with AuraDB, there's also a number of free options where you can run smaller environments for free, or you have also nowadays a free trial available, which I'll show in a second. As well. So of course, if you want to learn more about Aura, then there's a lot of like detail on the pages as well that you can go into as such. We'll cover many of these aspects also in the live stream in the future, but today we want to get started really quickly. And interestingly, my colleagues just A/B test launched a new user flow, and so I thought, why don't we just try that new user flow out and see how this goes, because it looks really cool. So it starts by me putting in my name. My name is Michael. My last name is Hunger, which is not such a great name, but you know, what can you do? And so you see it start creating a little note for me here on the side, and then I can company in here as well. And so as you go through this sign up flow, you also see the graph of yourself and your context basically being created. So I want to work on let's say on a personal project. So then I get my personal project here, and I'm let's say I'm a software developer here. So that's, you know, that's my context around me, right? So it's not just me myself, but also like what are the things that I'm working with. And then let's say I want to work on an recommendations project here as a project, right? So this is kind of my little graph that builds up and which I find quite nice. And then I can create an instance. There's no credit card required, and it will basically start getting me this instance. So I'll destroy it, of course, later. So it's not worthwhile for you to copy this password as such, right? So, and there's a little bit of an animation that explains how Neo4j AuraDB works. That we take care of all the management upgrades, security, compliance, and other aspects as well. And we operate Neo4j at scale. There are tens of thousands of databases running on Aura for small and large customers and users. So we have everything from, you know, small learning databases that have a few hundred nodes to up to multi-terabyte data sets that have like large customers run on Aura as well, right? So all of this goes together. And while we're waiting here, it's creating my instance in the background. But what we can also do is we want to start because we only want to take 30 minutes today, we want to start by importing some relational database data into our graph. So you might remember in the past we've done this from CSV files, but nicely now there's an opportunity in Aura itself that we can integrate, as it shows here, also with other data sources. And we can pull in data from elsewhere. So I thought, why don't we just grab a Supabase database? So I created a Supabase instance and project. I grabbed a Northwind create script from the internet. And so it created a bunch of tables for me. So I have products, like the typical Northwind Knäckebrot and cheese and chocolate and Rostbratwurst, right? So all the important food, Gummibärchen,
things,
right? So, or Nuss-Nougat grain for those of you that don't know what is as sharp is, right? So, and then of course there's customers from lots of different countries and different contexts. And then, of course, these customers then order products. So you have the order ID, the customer ID, employee ID, and then the employee that sold the product and the shipper. And then there's order details, which are like line items that map between orders and products as such, and the quantity of the order is in here as well, right? And of course, other things like categories and shipper suppliers and so on. So it's kind of the well-known Northwind data set. And because Supabase is basically Postgres, hosted Postgres, I could use the Neo4j Aura Postgres integration to make this happen. So just as a little bit of background here. So this is what the new Aura UI looks like. So you might have seen the previous Aura UIs on Neo4j desktop, but this is kind of the UI that we're seeing here from a new perspective. So I have my user account here. I can see my account settings. I can generate API keys. Now Aura has an CLI as well, so you can provision databases and manage databases as well with an API and CLI as well. We are currently at the new experience. We can switch this. There's theme switches, so we can do like light dark system. I'm actually more light theme person, interestingly, but probably because I'm old. And then there's also a learning experience that we'll probably go into next time a little bit, where there's like data sets, guides, and other things as well. So that's probably something for next time.
Yeah.
But here, my new instance is up and running. So that's my instance ID. It's currently empty. I can connect to this instance, which we'll do in a second. And I can also see metrics for this instance if it's a professional instance. So there's also Pro Trial, which we also cover next time, where we can go into more detail of all these metrics and log analyzers and things like that. But until that, we'll want to look at the data import part. So there's a new sidebar item here for data import, and we can add more data sources. And as you can see here, we have Postgres, MySQL, SQL Server, Oracle, Snowflake. There are more services coming. I heard from my colleagues that, for instance, BigQuery might be coming soon. And we want to add more and more data sources here, so that whatever your data source is, we can import the data from this. So, and I just pick Postgres, and I'll need to copy my connection details from Supabase. Let me do this. Interestingly, something I learned when I tried this out is that Supabase, by default, the default connection credentials are using only IPv6. So from that perspective, Aura, which only supports IPv4, can't use this, but they have this other router approach where it's actually with IP4 it actually works. So we have an pooler URL here. And then our database is Postgres, and the schema is public. And the user is this special user, which then has this routing for the database, for the actual database is in the username here. So they use the information from the username to actually route this from the base pooler here as such. And then this is Supabase Northwind dataset. So it will use these connection details to connect to the relation database, fetch the schema from that, or the table schema from that database. And so we see basically what are our primary keys here, and what are our foreign keys as well. So it also detects foreign keys, which is of course helpful when you want to do an graph model, right? So because you want to have the relationships in here as well. So like, for instance, our order details, we have the foreign keys here in orders as well. We have customer ID, employee ID, and so on. So all this looks very much like what I just showed you in the in Supabase itself, right? So this looks actually quite good. So let's confirm looks good. And now it can go ahead and generate a graph model itself. So you might remember in the past when we did CSV import, it was more or less a more tedious way of creating the nodes, mapping the properties, creating relationships, mapping the relationship properties, and so on. And now we can actually. It was way more manual, and now we can actually map this automatically. And you see, if I, for instance, click on order, all these IDs are already mapped. It also does the primary key itself. Employees are mapped to the order as well. I can change the relationship type, for instance, to this employee sold this order, or the customer here, for instance, instead of related, they purchased this order.
Do you know where the naming comes from? How did it come up with?
So I think these names are looking at the foreign key relationships, and then looks at the target table, and then uses the name from the target table, basically. So you see, for instance, order details points to orders here, and then it actually uses that as well. And then,
So
for
no
instance,
AI magic included in this step.
not yet. So we have some AI magic in the works where we actually use an LLM, but that's especially interesting when there's no foreign key relationship. So it's basically there's an approach called foreign key detection where you can use an LLM actually with a schema and some sample data to help you detect what are foreign keys in this data set. For instance, in cloud data warehouses like BigQuery or Snowflake, oftentimes because they're like analytical databases and not so transactional databases, they don't have foreign keys. And so there you can use the LLM then to map these foreign keys. But we use a little bit of heuristics to change names and things like that and adjust some of the spelling as well. But in general, so this is currently just an mapping. So something that's interesting here, so it mapped all the details as a separate node. I haven't actually tried in this relational database import to see if we can actually turn this into a relationship. Perhaps you can try this actually. Let's see if this works. So for instance, if you say order contains here, right, as an relationship type, order contains, and we put in order details as the table here, right? Then we can say our mapping is we map from order ID in the orders table to product ID in the product table, and then we can map the quantity and order detail ID as extra properties on the relationship itself, right? And it seems to have worked, which is really nice. So that means you can actually delete this mapping, and let's see if this actually makes it into the import. So that's an interesting one, right? So from the auto-generated one, this is actually a nicer graph model where the relationship is actually representing the join table as such, right? So in order details is one of these typical join tables, and we just turned this into a relationship. I like this actually more. But I have not tried it before, so let's see what happens. And then we have a product and supplier relationship. So we would probably say a supplier supplies a product, and a product is in a category, for instance, as such. All right. And here's also something interesting. So we have actually an products table, and the foreign key for this relationship actually is not in a join table, but it's directly pointing from the products table to the category table as such, right? So this is kind of part of this. Where do we have it here? The products table. It has supplier as a foreign key, category as a foreign key. So those are actually taken directly from this table, not from an extra join table as such. Right? Okay, so that looks good. And then now we need to connect our instance here, where we could see our list of instances here. And of course, you only have one in this account, so we can connect directly to this instance. As you can see, we don't have to put in any password because it uses single sign-on behind the scenes. So it maps actually my user, my Aura console user or my Aura management user to a database user, so I get actually permissions in the database based on the SSO of my Aura user as such here. Right? Okay, and now that I have connected it, it says if it's a free instance to a database Neo4j, and then I can run the import here. And let's see what happens. So we need to put in this information again. So this is also something that the team is currently working on to have like safe storage. So we have already some level of user storage, but currently it does not store safety and security related credentials. So we have to put this in again. So let me quickly fetch this data from over here. And then I also need to, one second, where do I have it here? I need to fetch the password for my newly created database, which fortunately nowadays, actually, when you create a database, it always downloads a text file with the details. So you have actually this information always available. And I think it did not copy this correctly. Let's see. because it should be longer. Okay, this looks better. So, and then it starts submitting these import jobs. That's also a difference to what the import used to work like. In the past, all these things were running in our browser when we had CSV import, but this is now really creating background jobs and scheduling these background jobs and running them. And now I have an authentication failure, so I have to rerun this job. Let's see, it didn't happen in the morning when I tried this out, but we can try this again. And let's see if we can avoid this.
Maybe the password, yeah.
This issue. So this is my Neo4j Aura detail. Let me just verify that the ID is correct, 31D. And this is, oh, that was the wrong instance. That explains why it didn't like. So is this the one? 4A. That's a good question. Oh,
I think you did download it in your.
No, it had downloaded it, but I looked in the wrong folder. So, and if you look into the wrong folder, of course, the last Aura file is a different file from what you. Okay, that was clearly user error. So, but then we also saw that these input jobs can fail, right? And then it looks like this. And now we can run a second input job, which hopefully will not fail. And it goes ahead and inputs our data. We also see where is the data coming from, where is it going to, when was it submitted, and now it completed. So this is also auto-refreshing here in the table. And now we can actually go here and explore our data in query. So let's just refresh here, and you can see we're still connected to our instance, and now our 414 nodes and 1200 relationships are imported from the relational database. And we can call DB schema visualization. So this is the new browser or the new query experience, which also has much nicer Cypher completion. There's a full LSP style Cypher grammar behind this, and it has much nicer completion, but it also has much nicer graph visualization. It uses the same graph visualization as Neo4j Bloom or Explorer uses. So that means even if we pull the whole database, so if I remove this limit here, then it's still able to visualize this instantly. And we see even with a few hundred nodes, it's zero latency visualization here as well, right? So which is really nice. So we see all the users, all the customers, and so on. And then you can of course see each of those in detail. And then what you can also do here is you can now change the order. So for instance, if you have multi-labeled nodes which have like additional labels, then you can also sort which labels should be prioritized in coloring and picking captions and things like that, which is really nice. A nice feature as well. Right. And now we can actually start querying our data. So for instance, if you want to do something like find us, let's say, how many orders do we have in our system? We just run a count query, so we have 196 orders. But then, for instance, if you also want to see which customers purchased these orders, so we have actually 196 orders, and then we can say count distinct customer. See, then we see that this is 74 customers purchased those orders and such. And if people are not so familiar with Cypher, we have now also Copilots built in, so we can also, let's see, it might actually be that I need to enable it. Let's go to my organization, and then there is organization settings, and I can enable the Copilot here. Because some organizations don't want to send the graph schema. So it does not actually send any data to the LLM, which is also running in Google Cloud, where Aura itself is also running. but it only sends my question and the database schema to the LLM, and then this is actually a fine-tuned model that we fine-tuned for cipher generation. So it's actually a specific text-to-cipher model that we're hosting ourselves, and it runs in Vertex in GCP. And we can now basically use our Copilot here inside of query. And now you see the sparkles here, right, which is a clear sign for kind of AI magic in air quotes, which is actually just next token prediction. But what we can now say is basically what are chai products database. Let's see if it can do this. So we sent this query there. It uses the schema plus plus the data to get this. And I don't think there's a category called chai. Let's see it. I don't think it returns any data, but we can. I think there's something like beverages or something like that. Let's see. So these are all beverages. So we have IPO coffee, lager, and
there was a chai at the beginning, I think.
So there's a chai at the beginning here, exactly. Yeah, right? So there's. It gives you a proposal, and then you can modify the query. But you at least you get the structure, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Or we can, for instance, ask another question, which is, who are the most valuable customers? How do you call it? Prolific customers?
The most people who spend most, I guess, is what you mean.
Yeah, the customers
who spend most. This is probably
spend most. Let's see. So it needs to look at customers purchased an order which contain a product, and then it basically takes the product price and the quantity from the relationship, which is really interesting, right? So because it detects that it can actually use the relationship property here, and then gets this guy's total spend, and then we get customer name and total spend, and hopefully it used something P twice. So here once for purchase and once for product. But fortunately, so we can fix this really quickly. And now we see that Ernst Handel spent 35,000 currency units, whatever, it's probably dollars or something like that, right? So, and then you can modify, of course, the query and say, okay, I want to, for instance,
that's really pretty good.
Instead of round this. So I'm quite impressed because it also usually it struggles with relationship direction. That's one thing that it usually struggles with, and also that it detected that the relationship property actually has the quantity is actually also quite good. So that's actually quite nice to see that, right? So and then so some other nice things in query now is that you can sort by columns here, and you can change these things as well. And right, so there's lots of like small quality of life improvements as well. For instance, there's also now quick history search, so I can quickly find, for instance, something like all the queries where there's a count in here, right? So and then I can basically get me this in my past as well, and I can also do saving cipher and so on. I can even do linting, right? So for instance, if I go here, let me see, does it do this here as well? Format query, and then it basically reformats the query as well, so which is really nice as such. Right? So there's lots of nice things that you can do, and you can save the query as well. So for instance, here we can say save cipher snippet, and then we can basically say customers that spend the most. It should probably take the comment from the top, and then we can select folders, and if you don't have a folder, it just saves it here, and then we have the query here, and then we have it available always, and can edit or run it or put in folders and things like that, right? So I can also create a folder here, test queries or something like that, and then drag it in here. I think can drag it into the folder as well. I think at least. Can I drag it into the folder? Yeah. So now it's in the folder, right? And then you can basically use that. Okay, so there's a lot of quality of life things in query these days. So there's even more to be found. I think next time we can go into explore a little bit and look at this, and then there's some other interesting things, for instance, like GraphQL APIs and other things as well, so where we can look into this. And of course, metrics, log analysis, and so on. But I think that's something to keep for next time, as such, because we have time.
And with time, exactly. So if you have anything that you'd like to see next episode, then let us know. We can obviously prioritize if we hear from you. Otherwise, again, if this is something you think is interesting, is good, and is helpful for you, then let us know in the comments. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel on the various channels we are at, YouTube and others. And yeah, just briefly before we go, I have obviously a little promo for the next session. So tomorrow, actually, Jesus and I will do another episode of Going Meta, which is our monthly series on semantics, knowledge graphs, and AI. So if you are interested in that, if now you've thought, okay, I want to know more, then join us tomorrow. And yeah, if you have anything else, further links are here on this page. Our Graph Academy gives you a great place to learn, from Neo4j fundamentals to advanced sessions on app building and app development, also chatbots and AI stuff. So I think it's a very wide field now. Aura Free, you just seen. And if you have more questions or more, dive in a little bit deeper into our developer pages, community, documentation, and other labs and projects around Neo4j, then have a look at our neo4j.com/developer pages for more about that. Yeah, I think that was it. Short episode, quick start to season 2 of Discover Neo4j AuraDB. I'm super happy that we're bringing this back. I hope this was insightful.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael, for the first episode today. And yeah, looking forward to talking to to you more about the various features and the more capabilities that we can explore in AuraDB in the future here.
And there's more coming as well, right? So I think every month when we do the episode, there will be something new that we can talk about, and there's lots of exciting things in the pipeline as well. So I think we will not run out of cool things to show and discuss and try out. And so bring your questions, and we are more than happy to answer them. And hopefully this is helpful and fun for everyone as well. Take care, everyone.
Super. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care. Have a good rest of your day.